free college football picks. This is action here for Saturday, November 18th. Tony T, our college football pick show here for Saturday's action. We have all 57 games. Before we get underway, just a couple things. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have free college football picks updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. Making it a great time to subscribe. And also, if you would, support our channel with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. We are a multi-capper site showcasing the top performers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers, get signed up to long-term passes. Hot cappers like Joseph Schultz for the year, Chauncey Giles, fantastic numbers. Hollywood Sam, Ramon Scott up there. Last 30 days, Daniel Walstrick's been on fire here. Hollywood Sam, Chauncey, Sean Dinwiddie up there. Midian hitting the top performers as well. Click the links, get signed up to our long-term passes. Latest spring picks here, center of the page. You'll find our best bets, our multi-packs, and more. We'll be ready to rock and roll here for a Saturday. Of course, you may purchase our plays a la carte from that pick ticker. You'll see the team versus team information. And you can save 20% off all premium pick packages when you use that promo code TonyT at checkout. Access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab, get signed up. Always love hearing from you guys, so post your picks in the comments. And we are looking for cappers, so apply on that home page. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Michigan State and Indiana college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Michigan State fell to 3-7 with their 38-3 road defeat to Ohio State. Spartans rushed for 94 yards on 29 carries. They allowed 177 yards rushing to the Buckeyes with 353 passing yards on 34 attempts. Caden Hauser completed 12 of 24 passes for 92 yards. He averaged a season low of 3.8 yards per pass attempt. Indiana drops to 3-7, a 48-45 road defeat to Illinois. Hoosiers rushed for 164 yards on 42 attempts. They allowed 155 rushing yards to the final line with 507 passing yards on 36 attempts. Brandon Sorsby, 22 of 33 passing for 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt, and he rushed for 53 yards with 2 touchdowns. Indiana's lost 6 of 7 in the conference by allowing 35 points and 419 yards a game. Spartans have played the better defense in conference in defending the run. Hoosiers are allowing 4.4 yards per rush and allowing big plays in the passing game. Play here Michigan State plus 4.5. SMU and Memphis college football pick. This one is on Saturday. SMU 8-2 with their 45-21 home victory in North Texas. Mustangs rushed for 318 yards on 58 carries. They held the mean green to 4 yards per rush with 240 passing yards on 31 attempts. Preston Stone 11-20 passing for 234 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 11.7 yards per pass attempt. Memphis improved to 8-2, a 44-38 road overtime win at Charlotte. Tigers rushed for 101 yards on 31 carries. They allowed 223 yards rushing to the 49ers with 168 passing yards on 26 attempts. Memphis had 2 turnovers and picked off 4 Charlotte passes. Seth Hennigan, 32 of 48 passing for 329 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6.9 yards per pass attempt. SMU has the 10th ranked offense in college football by averaging 474 yards a game and running for 4.7 yards per attempt. Memphis, poor defensive team, giving up 416 yards, 4.8 yards per rush. Tigers are giving up big plays in the passing game. Now, SMU defends. They're holding teams at 290 yards a game, 3.2 yards per rush. They're strong against the pass play here. SMU -7. Purdue and Northwestern college football pick. This one here Saturday. Purdue improved to 3-7 with their 49-30 home victory in Minnesota. Boilermakers rushed for 353 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 4.2 yards per rush to the Golden Gophers with 292 passing yards on 42 attempts. Hudson Card 17-25 passing for 251 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 10 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 44 yards and a touchdown. Northwestern 5-5 after their 24-10 road win at Wisconsin. Wildcats rushed for 129 yards on 38 carries. They limited the Badgers to 86 yards rushing with 255 passing yards on 45 attempts. Ben Bryant returned from injury to hit 18 of 26 passes for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 7.5 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Northwestern defense passed 3 games, holding teams to 300 yards and allowing just 16 points a game. Purdue has struggled with quarterback accuracy and efficiency in their passing game. The Wildcats have limited big plays in the passing game. Play Purdue and Northwestern under 48.5. Southern Miss and Mississippi State college football pick. This one Saturday. Southern Miss improved to 3-7 with their 34-31 road overtime win at Louisiana. Bulldogs rushed for 229 yards on 53 carries. They allowed 130 rushing yards to the Raging Cajuns with 260 passing yards on 38 attempts. Billy Wiles, 8 of 13 passing for 99 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Wiles is questionable with that hand injury. Ethan Crawford in relief, 6 of 11 passing for 62 yards and a touchdown. The freshman averaged 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Mississippi State drops to 4-6, a 51-10 road defeat to Texas A&M. Bulldogs rushed for 133 yards on 36 carries. They surrendered 246 yards rushing to the Aggies with 150 passing yards on 21 attempts. Mississippi State had a -4 turnover margin. Will Rogers missed the past 4 games, but is expected to return on Saturday. The senior is completing 61% of his passes with a career high 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Mississippi State did fire their head coach. It will be tough for Southern Miss, though, to score on this SEC defense on the road to South Alabama. The Golden Eagles were held just 3 points. Southern Miss, 102nd in the nation in yards per play and near the bottom of college football in quarterback accuracy. Mississippi State, 105th in the nation in total offense with struggles with quarterback accuracy and efficiency. Play here will be Southern Miss and Southern Mississippi here. Southern Miss and Mississippi State to go under 46.5. Louisville and Miami college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Louisville improved to 9-1 with their 31-24 home victory at Virginia. Cardinals rushed for 180 yards on 31 carries. They held Cavaliers to 3.5 yards per rush with 314 yards passing on 32 attempts. Jack Plummer, 19 of 28 passing for 243 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 8.7 yards per pass attempt. Miami drops to 6-4, a 27-20 road defeat to Florida State. Hurricanes rushed for 131 yards on 34 carries. They held the Seminoles to under 2 yards per rush with 265 yards passing on 31 attempts. Tyler Van Dyke, 2 of 7 passing for 29 yards and an interception. He averaged 4.1 yards per pass attempt. Emory Williams broke his arm. He's out for the season, opening the door for Van Dyke to return as a starter. Miami has the 19th ranked defense in the nation by allowing 312 yards a game, 2.8 yards per rush. Louisville sits 16th in total defense, giving up 300 yards a game with 3 yards per rush. Past 3 games, Miami averaging only 301 yards a game with quarterback ineffectiveness against the better teams. Player will be Louisville and Miami under 47. Tulane and FAU college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Tulane improved to 9-1 with their 24-22 home victory to Tulsa. Mean Green rushed for 163 yards on 35 carries. They limited Tulsa to under 4 yards per rush with 355 passing yards on 41 attempts. Michael Pratt completed 16 of 29 passes for 194 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 6.7 yards per pass attempt. FAU 4-6, a 22-7 home defeat to East Carolina. Owls rushed for 21 yards on 31 attempts. They held the Pirates to 2.1 yards per rush with 156 yards passing on 30 attempts. Daniel Richardson hit 24 of 36 passing for 151 yards with an interception. He averaged 4.2 yards per pass attempt. Tulane, an efficient passing team. FAU gives up chunks of yardage in the passing game and allows 63% completion rate. The Owls' offense has struggled on the ground with pass efficiency. The Mean Green, strong defensive team holding opponents at 2.9 yards per rush and limits big plays in the passing game. FAU at home averaging only 279 yards per game, failing to cover all 5 games with a push. Recent bad home performances at home by the Owls against East Carolina and UTSA here, averaging just 8.5 points a game. Play here Tulane at minus a 9.5. Michigan versus Maryland college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Michigan improved to 10-0, a 24-15 road win at Penn State. Wolverines rushed for 227 yards on 46 carries. They allowed 164 yards rushing to the Lions with 74 passing yards on 23 attempts. J.J. McCarthy, 7 of 8 passing for 60 yards. He averaged 7.5 yards per pass attempt. Maryland 6-4 with their 13-10 road win at Nebraska. Terrapins rushed for 101 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 183 yards rushing to the Cornhuskers with 86 passing yards on 21 attempts. Maryland had 3 turnovers and took 5 away from Nebraska. Tagovailoa, 27-40 passing for 283 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 7.1 yards per pass attempt. Maryland holding teams to 339 yards a game. They're stopping the run by allowing 3.4 yards per rush. Wolverines run-heavy team. Tagovailoa completing 65% of his passes on the year, and they do throw at a high volume. It's back-to-back road games for Michigan, and the game is sandwiched between Penn State and Ohio State. Play here, Maryland plus 19. East Carolina and Navy college football pick. This one comes here on Saturday. East Carolina improved to 2-8 with their 22-7 road win at FAU. Pirates rushed for 79 yards on 38 carries. They limited the Owls to under 1 yard per rush with 151 passing yards on 37 attempts. Alex Finn, 18-30 passing for 156 yards and an interception. He averaged 5.2 yards per pass attempt. Navy 4-5 after a 31-6 home victory. UAB midshipmen rushed for 269 yards on 47 carries. They limited the Blazers to 3.8 yards per rush with 206 passing yards on 36 attempts. Xavier Arline, 7 of 10 passing for 94 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 9.4 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 109 yards and a touchdown. East Carolina has covered 3 straight behind good defense. They're holding teams to 3.3 yards per rush. Navy, high volume rushing team. Navy defense has struggled against the pass this season. Play here will be East Carolina plus 3. Oklahoma versus BYU college football pick Saturday. All right. Oklahoma improved to 8-2, a 59-20 home victory to West Virginia. Sooners rushed for 223 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 176 rushing yards to the Mountaineers with 154 passing yards on 31 attempts. Dylan Gabriel, 23 of 36 passing for 423 yards with 5 touchdowns. He averaged 11.8 yards per pass attempt and had 3 rushing touchdowns. BYU falls to 5-5, a 45-13 home defeat to Iowa State. Cougars rushed for 188 yards on 38 carries. They allowed the Cyclones 234 rushing yards with 209 passing on 25 attempts. BYU had a -3 turnover margin. Jake Retzlaff, 10 of 27 passing for 104 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He rushed for 64 yards. Retzlaff averaged 3.9 yards per pass attempt. Retzlaff has been ineffective at quarterback for an injured Slovis. In his 2 starts, he's averaging just 4.6 yards per pass attempt. Past 3 games, Oklahoma averaging 526 yards a game and 39 points. The Cougars against the Big 12, averaging just 18 points and 298 yards a game while allowing 455 yards a game. Player will be Oklahoma -24. Rutgers versus Penn State college football pick. This one here Saturday. Rutgers fell to 6-4 with their 22-0 road defeat to Iowa. Scarlet Knights rushed for 34 yards on 23 carries. They allowed 179 yards rushing to the Hawkeyes with 223 yards passing on 31 attempts. Gavin Wimsatt, 7 of 18 passing for 93 yards and an interception. He averaged 5.2 yards per pass attempt. Penn State drops to 8-2, a 24-15 home defeat to Michigan. The Lady Lions rushed for 164 yards on 35 carries. They surrendered 227 yards rushing to the Wolverines with 60 passing yards on 8 attempts. Drew Allar hit 10 of 22 passes for 70 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 3.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 49 yards with a touchdown. Rutgers 118th in total offense, averaging just 310 yards a game. They struggled with quarterback accuracy. Penn State second in total defense by allowing 239 yards a game, only 2.4 yards per rush. The Lions have an inefficient passing offense. Scarlet Knights 13th in total defense, allowing 295 yards a game. Player Rutgers and Penn State under 42. Monroe and Ole Miss college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Monroe fell to 2-8 with their 45-14 home defeat to Troy. Warhawks rushed for 66 yards on 31 carries. They held the Trojans to 3.8 yards per rush with 264 passing yards on 46 attempts. J.I. Wright hit 20 of 36 passing for 243 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt and was sacked 9 times. Ole Miss drops to 8-2, a 52-17 road defeat here to Georgia. Rebels rushed for 179 yards on 45 carries. They surrendered 300 yards rushing to the Bulldogs with 311 passing yards on 26 attempts. Jackson Dart 10 of 17 passing for 112 yards and an interception. Monroe on the road averaged just 299 yards a game. The Warhawks hit 102nd in the nation in total offense, averaging 335 yards a game. The team is inaccurate at the quarterback position. Ole Miss stops the run by allowing 3.9 yards per rush. Ole Miss, a high-volume rushing team, and will keep it on the ground with a sizable lead. Will milk that clock. Play here, Monroe and Ole Miss under 37. All right, we got Coastal Carolina and Army college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Coastal Carolina improved to 7-3 with their 31-23 home victory to Texas State. Chanticleers rushed for 108 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 199 yards rushing to the Bobcats with 81 passing on 19 attempts. Grayson McCall missed the game with a head injury. He is questionable here. Ethan Vasco, 17 of 27 passing for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 5.4 yards per pass attempt. Army improved to 4-6. A 17-14 home victory to FCS Holy Cross. Black Knights are 117th in total offense by averaging 311 yards a game with 4.2 yards per rush. They do average nearly 15 passes per game. Bryson Daly is completing 50% of his passes with 8.2 yards per pass attempt. Daly is averaging 4.4 yards per rush. Coastal Carolina is a good offensive team, averaging 436 yards a game. They have accurate quarterback play and efficient in the passing game. Army defense allows 4.8 yards a carry. Black Knights struggle with quarterback accuracy. On the road, the Chanticleers are averaging 455 yards a game. Play here, Coastal Carolina at -4. Cincinnati and West Virginia college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Cincinnati is 3-7 after their 24-14 road victory to Houston. Bearcats rushed for 206 yards on 47 carries. They allowed 139 yards rushing to the Cougars with 102 passing yards on 28 attempts. Cincinnati had a +2 turnover margin. Emory Jones, 13 of 16 passing for 131 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.2 yards per pass attempt. West Virginia dropped to 6-4, a 59-20 road defeat to Oklahoma. Mountaineers rushed for 176 yards on 41 carries. They allowed 223 yards rushing to the Sooners with 423 passing yards on 36 attempts. Garrett Green completed 10 of 27 passes for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He averaged 5.7 yards per pass attempt. Cincinnati has struggled to get points on the board in conference by averaging 19 points a game. West Virginia has defended better at home, limiting opponents to 18 points and 307 yards a game. Mountaineers limit opposing quarterbacks to 58% completions. Bearcats as well by holding opposing quarterbacks to 55% completion rate. West Virginia has issues with quarterback accuracy, sitting 123rd in the nation. They are a high-volume running team. Play here Cincinnati and West Virginia under 55.5. All right, next up here is Utah and Arizona college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Utah dropped to 7-3 with their 35-28 road defeat to Washington. Utes rushed for 115 yards on 27 carries. They allowed 125 yards rushing to the Huskies with 332 yards passing on 42 attempts. Bryson Barnes, 17-30 passing for 267 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 8.9 yards per pass attempt. Arizona improved to 7-3, a 34-31 road win to Colorado. Wildcats rushed for 207 yards on 27 carries. They held the Buffs to 2.5 yards per rush with 262 passing yards on 35 attempts. Noah Fafita, 21 of 35 passing for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.1 yards per pass attempt. Arizona is defending well, holding teams to 3.2 yards per rush. Utah has struggled with quarterback accuracy and efficiency this season. Arizona, a really good running team, and Utah is holding opponents to 3.1 yards per run. Utah defense, good, really in defending the pass, holding opposing quarterbacks to 55% completion rate. Play here Utah and Arizona under 45.5. All right, Temple and UAB college football pick. This one here Saturday. Temple fell to 3-7, a 27-23 road defeat to South Florida. Owls rushed for 109 yards on 26 attempts. They held the Bulls to 2.6 yards per rush with 316 passing yards on 28 attempts. Temple recorded 6 sacks. The Owls had a -3 turnover margin. E.J. Warner, 24 of 47 passing for 280 yards with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He averaged 6 yards per pass attempt. UAB drops to 3-7, a 31-6 road defeat to Navy. Blazers rushed for 115 yards on 30 carries. They allowed 269 yards rushing to the midshipmen with 94 yards passing on 10 attempts. Jacob Zeno hit 25 of 36 passing for 206 yards with 2 interceptions. He's averaged 5.7 yards per pass attempt. Past 3 games, UAB allowing 24 points per game. Owls have struggled to score on the road by averaging 17.5 points a game. Temple runs for only 3.4 yards per rush and struggles with quarterback accuracy and pass efficiency. Play your Temple and UAB under 64.5. Nevada and Colorado State college football pick Saturday. All right, Nevada drops to 2-8 with a 41-24 road defeat to Utah State. Wolfpack rushed for 183 yards on 42 carries. They allowed 292 yards rushing to the Aggies with 182 passing yards on 33 attempts. H.H. Bianco, 13 of 25 passing for 161 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6.4 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 74 yards. Colorado State improved to 4-6, 22-19 home victory to San Diego State. Rams rushed for 183 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 145 yards rushing to the Aztecs with 128 passing yards on 25 attempts. Braden Fowler Nicolosi, 17 of 30 passing for 202 yards and an interception. He averaged 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Colorado State is 112th in total defense as they allow a 72% completion rate and big plays in the passing game. Rams struggle with passing efficiency and ran for only 3.1 yards a rush. Wolfpack has seen their scoring improve by averaging 24 points a game. The Rams at home allow 32 points. Play here in Nevada plus 11.5. All right, we've got North Texas and Tulsa college football pick Saturday. North Texas fell here to 3-7 after their 45-21 road defeat to SMU. Mean Green rushed for 132 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 318 yards rushing to the Mustangs with 234 yards passing on 28 attempts. Chandler Rogers completed 18 of 31 passes for 240 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 7.7 yards per pass attempt. Tulsa drops to 3-7 after their 24-22 road defeat to Tulane. Golden Hurricane rushed for 122 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 163 yards rushing to the Mean Green with 194 yards passing on 29 attempts. Cardell Williams is questionable with a shoulder injury and missed last week's game. Freshman Kirk Francis hit 22 of 34 passes for 345 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 10.1 yards per pass attempt on the Tulane defense. Tulsa has struggled offensively, though, in the conference, averaging 22 points a game, and they've lost 5 of 6. Going Hurricanes hit 120th in total defense by allowing 433 yards a game and allow big plays in the passing game. North Texas gets accurate play at the quarterback and efficient in the passing game. Play here North Texas at plus 2.5. Texas State and Arkansas State college football pick. This one Saturday. Texas State fell to 6-4 with their 31-23 road defeat to Coastal Carolina. Bobcats rushed for 199 yards on 48 carries. They allowed 188 yards rushing to the Chanticleers with 159 yards passing on 28 attempts. TJ Finley, 6 of 11 passing for 49 yards with 4.5 yards per pass attempt. Finley was benched but expected to start. Arkansas State fell to 5-5, a 21-14 road defeat to South Alabama. Red Wolves rushed for 166 yards on 36 attempts. They allowed 199 yards rushing to the Jaguars with 145 passing on 25 attempts. Jalen Rayner hit 15 of 28 passes for 186 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 6.6 yards per pass attempt. Arkansas State struggles with quarterback accuracy. Bobcats have seen their scoring slip the past 3 games and are 4-1 in the under in conference. Red Wolves put up only 25 points a game against the Sun Belt. Play here Texas State and Arkansas State under 59.5. All right, let's get you Duke and Virginia college football pick Saturday. Duke fell to 6-4 with their 47-45 road double overtime defeat at North Carolina. Blue Devils rushed for 179 yards on 43 carries. They allowed 195 yards rushing to the Tar Heels with 342 yards passing on 43 attempts. Riley Leonard is out. Henry Bellin questionable and missed the last 3 games. Grayson Loftus completed 16 of 28 passes for 189 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Virginia dropped to 2-8, a 31-24 road defeat at Louisville. Cavaliers rushed for 120 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 180 yards rushing to the Cardinals with 243 passing yards on 28 attempts. Tony Muskett is doubtful with a foot injury. Anthony Colandrea, 20 of 31 passes for 314 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 10.1 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 89 yards. Blue Devils struggle with quarterback accuracy. Duke is a really good running team, and the Cavaliers struggle stopping the run. Duke has been efficient in pass defense. Past 3 games, the Blue Devils are averaging 282 yards a game. Past 3 games, the Cavaliers putting up only 22 points per game. Would expect the Blue Devils to keep a high volume rushing attempt here. Play here Duke and Virginia under 47. All right, UMass and Liberty college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UMass improved to 3-1 here with their 31-21 home victory to FCS school Merrimack. Minutemen are 87th in total offense, averaging 359 yards a game. The team rushes for 4.5 yards a carry. Tyson Machon is completing 62% of his passes with 6.5 yards per pass attempt. He has 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions now. UMass 109th in total defense, allowing 416 yards a game with 5.6 yards per rush. Liberty 10-0, a 38-10 home victory at Old Dominion. Flames rushed for 230 yards on 45 carries. They held the Monarchs to 3.9 yards per rush with 161 passing yards on 42 attempts. Caden Salter hit 13 of 22 passes for 225 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 10.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 41 yards and 2 touchdowns. Liberty is a good defensive team, holding teams to 3.8 yards per rush and defending the pass well. Minutemen are struggling to score, as in their past 3 games, averaging 15 points per game. UMass poor at stopping the run, so expect high volume rushes by the Flames. Play here UMass and Liberty under 62. UTEP and Middle Tennessee State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, UTEP dropped to 3-7 with their 21-13 home defeat to Western Kentucky. Miners rushed for 154 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 178 yards rushing to the Hilltoppers with 102 passing yards on 20 attempts. Gavin Hardison doubtful. He missed the past 5 games. Cade McConnell completed 14 of 24 passes for 214 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 8.9 yards per pass attempt. Middle Tennessee State improved to 3-7, a 40-6 home victory to FIU. Blue Raiders rushed for 139 yards on 36 carries. They limited FIU to 1.3 yards per rush with 230 yards passing on 39 attempts. Nicholas Fatadio hit 18 of 25 passes for 275 yards with 4 touchdowns. He averaged 11 yards per pass attempt. Blue Raiders are a poor defensive team, allowing 401 yards per game, 62% completion rate to the opposing quarterbacks. Miners defend opposing quarterbacks, allowing 58% completion rate. UTEP in Conference USA holds opponents at 23 points a game. Middle Tennessee State in Conference is allowing 414 yards per game. Player UTEP plus the 7.5. Rice and Charlotte college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Rice drops to 4-6 with their 34-14 road defeat to UTSA. Owls rushed for 47 yards on 28 carries. They allowed 199 yards rushing to the Roadrunners with 182 passing yards on 27 attempts. JT Daniels missed the game with a concussion. They're questionable here. AJ Padgett completed 17 of 28 passes for 182 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.5 yards per pass attempt. Charlotte fell to 3-7, a 44-38 home overtime defeat to Memphis. 49ers rushed for 223 yards on 39 carries. They held the Tigers to 3.3 yards per rush and 329 yards passing on 49 attempts. Each team had 4 turnovers. Trexler Ivy hit 14 of 25 passes for 168 yards with 4 interceptions. He averaged 6.7 yards per pass attempt. Rice is getting accurate quarterback play and efficient in their passing game. Charlotte is allowing 4.4 yards per rush and 62% quarterback percentage here, completion rate to opposing quarterbacks. 49ers offense getting poor accuracy from their quarterback position and inefficient in the passing game. Charlotte in conference averaging 18.8 points a game. Rice at 28. Play here will be Rice minus 2.5. Louisiana Tech and Jacksonville State college football pick. This one here Saturday. Louisiana Tech fell to 3-8 with a 42-27 home defeat to Sam Houston State. Bulldogs rushed for 105 yards on 26 carries. They allowed 144 yards rushing to the Bearcats with 269 yards passing on 28 attempts. Louisiana Tech had a -4 turnover margin. Hank Bachmeier hit 28 of 41 passes for 361 yards, 2 interceptions. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt. Jacksonville State drops to 7-3, a 38-28 road defeat 2 weeks ago to South Carolina. Jackrabbits rushed for 225 yards on 57 attempps. They held the Gamecocks to 3.3 yards per rush with 399 yards passing on 39 attempts. Jacksonville State had a -2 turnover margin. Zion Webb hit 12 of 23 passes for 183 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 65 yards. Bulldogs are getting accurate quarterback play. Jacksonville State is giving up big plays in the passing game. Past 3 games, Louisiana Tech averaging 27 points and 420 yards a game. Player Louisiana Tech at plus the 8.5. Appalachian State and James Madison college football pick. This one here Saturday. Appalachian State improved to 6-4 with their 42-14 road win at Georgia State. Mountaineers rushed for 254 yards on 39 carries. They held the Panthers to under 3 yards per rush with 121 yards passing on 31 attempts. Joey Aguilar completed 14 of 21 passes for 255 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 12 yards per pass attempt. James Madison sits at 10-0, a 44-6 home victory to Connecticut. Dukes rushed for 46 yards on 23 carries. They held the Huskies to 3.1 yards per rush along with 240 passing yards on 41 attempts. James Madison had a +2 turnover margin. Jordan McLeod, 33 of 37 passes for 457 yards with 4 touchdowns. He averaged 12.4 yards per pass attempt. James Madison, a good defensive team, allowing 324 yards per game, ranking 26th in the nation. They hold opponents at 2 yards per rush and limit big plays in the passing game. App State struggles to stop the run with opponents rushing for 5.2 yards a carry. Dukes are getting efficient play from the passing game. JMU past 3 games averaging 39 points and 512 yards a game. The player will be James Madison minus the 9. Hawaii and Wyoming college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Hawaii improved to 4-7 with their 27-13 home victory to Air Force. Warriors rushed for 121 yards on 29 carries. They allowed 201 yards rushing to the Falcons with 114 passing yards on 9 attempts. Hawaii had a +4 turnover margin. Braden Shager, 22 of 39 passing for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.1 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 57 yards and a touchdown. Wyoming fell to 6-4, a 34-14 road defeat to UNLV. The Rebels rushed for 121 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 165 yards rushing to the Cowboys with 232 passing yards on 24 attempts in the game. Andrew Peasley, 11 of 22 passing for 144 yards and an interception. He averaged 6.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 69 yards and a touchdown. Wyoming has struggled of late, averaging 15 points and 247 yards over the past 3 games. Hawaii has shown defensive improvement following back-to-back wins against Nevada and Air Force. Cowboys performing poorly with quarterback accuracy and passing efficiency. Warriors hold opposing quarterbacks to just 59% completion rate. Play here Hawaii plus 13.5. Kent and Ball State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, Kent 1-9 with their 49-19 home defeat to Bowling Green. Golden Flashes rushed for 74 yards on 32 carries. They allowed 190 yards rushing to the Falcons with 286 passing yards on 23 attempts. Tommy Ulatowski completed 23 of 40 passes for 284 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 7.1 yards per pass attempt. Ball State 3-7 with their 20-17 road victory at Northern Illinois. Cardinals rushed for 186 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 174 yards rushing to the Huskies with 141 passing yards on 28 attempts. Kyle Kelly, 15 of 25 passing for 115 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 4.6 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 66 yards and a touchdown. These are 2 offenses near the bottom of college football. Ball State against the MAC is averaging 17 points and 300 yards a game. They have one of the most inefficient passing games in all of college football. Golden Flashes hold opponents at 4.3 yards per rush. Opposing quarterback, 60% completion rate. Play here will be on Kent at plus 13. Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Sam Houston State improved to 2-8 with a 42-27 road victory to Louisiana Tech. Bearcats rushed for 144 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 4 yards per rush to the Bulldogs with 419 passing yards on 43 attempts. Sam Houston State had a +4 turnover margin. Keegan Shoemaker, 18 of 28 passing for 269 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 9.6 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 54 yards and a touchdown. Western Kentucky fell to 5-5, a 38-29 home defeat to New Mexico State. Hilltoppers rushed for 167 yards on 31 carries. They allowed 236 yards rushing to the Aggies with 141 passing yards on 24 attempts. Austin Reed, 20 of 36 passes for 270 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 7.5 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. This game is important for the Hilltoppers to become bowl eligible. Bearcats, a poor offensive team, sitting 121st in the nation with 2.9 yards per rush and inefficient in the passing game. They are allowing 426 yards per game in the conference play. Western Kentucky at home putting up 36 points and 452 yards a game. Play here Western Kentucky minus the 12.5. NC State and Virginia Tech college football pick. This one here on Saturday. NC State 7-3 after their 23-6 road win at Wake Forest. Wolfpack rushed for 266 yards on 50 carries. They limited the Demon Deacons to 7 rushing yards with 156 passing yards on 29 attempts. Brendan Armstrong, 12 of 17 passes for 111 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 6.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 96 yards and a touchdown. Virginia Tech improved to 5-5, a 48-22 road victory at Boston College. Hokies rushed for 363 yards on 51 carries. They allowed 4.1 yards per rush to the Eagles with 138 passing yards on 27 attempts. Kyron Jones, 12 of 17 passes for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 135 yards. NC State is rushing for 4 yards per attempt, and the Hokies are allowing 4.5 yards per run. Virginia Tech struggles with quarterback accuracy. NC State, 21st in the nation in total defense, allowing 3.3 yards per rush, 57% completion rate. The Wolfpack limit big plays in the passing game. Play here, NC State +3. Wake Forest and Notre Dame college football pick. This one here Saturday. Wake Forest drops to 4-6 with their 26-6 home defeat to NC State. Demon Deacons rushed for 7 yards on 18 carries. They allowed 266 yards rushing to the Wolfpack with 111 yards passing on 17 attempts. Michael Kern hit 14 of 26 passes for 137 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 5.3 yards per pass attempt. Notre Dame fell to 7-3, a 31-23 road defeat at Clemson 2 weeks ago. Fine Irish rushed for 183 yards on 31 carries. They surrendered 176 yards rushing to the Tigers with 109 passing yards on 26 attempts. Notre Dame had 3 turnovers, took 2 away from the Tigers. Sam Hartman, 13 of 30 passing for 146 yards with 2 interceptions. He averaged a season-low 4.9 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 68 yards and a touchdown. Wake Forest is going with inexperienced quarterback play here. Demon Deacons rushed for only 3.3 yards a carry and struggled with quarterback accuracy. Notre Dame 7th in total defense. Fine Irish rushed for 5 yards a carry. Wake Forest is giving up 4.2 yards a run. Demon Deacons hold opposing quarterbacks to 60% completion rate. Play here, Wake Forest and Notre Dame under 46.5. Louisiana and Troy college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Louisiana fell to 5-5, a 34-31 home defeat to Southern Miss. Raging Cajuns rushed for 130 yards on 32 carries. They allowed 229 yards rushing to the Golden Eagles with 161 passing yards on 26 attempts. Zion Chris questionable with the leg injury and missed last week's game. Chandler Fields 24 of 38 passing for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 6.8 yards per pass attempt. Troy improved to 8-2, a 45-14 road win at UL Monroe. Trojans rushed for 82 yards on 29 carries. They held the Warhawks at 3.1 yards per rush with 243 yards passing on 36 attempts. Troy registered 9 sacks. Gunnar Watson hit 24 of 39 passes for 219 yards with 4 touchdowns. He averaged 5.6 yards per pass attempt. Troy is the 14th ranked defense in all of college football by allowing 296 yards a game. They hold teams at 3.2 yards per rush and limit big plays in the passing game. Louisiana does a good job of running rush defense by allowing 3.8 yards per rush. Trojans are holding Sun Belt teams to just 10 points a game. Play here, Louisiana and Troy under 47.5. North Carolina and Clemson college football pick. This one here on Saturday. North Carolina 8-2 after a 47-45 double overtime victory to Duke. Tar Heels rushed for 195 yards on 44 attempts. They allowed 179 yards rushing to the Blue Devils with 200 passing yards on 29 attempts. Drake made 28 of 43 passing for 342 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 2 touchdowns. Clemson improved to 6-4, a 42-21 home victory to Georgia Tech. Tigers rushed for 260 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 117 rushing yards to the Yellow Jackets with 137 passing yards in the game on 32 attempts. Clemson had a +3 turnover margin on the strength of picking off 4 passes. Cade Klubnik, 23 of 34 passes for 205 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 6 yards per pass attempt. North Carolina third in total offense by averaging 520 yards a game, 4.9 yards per rush. Outstanding quarterback accuracy and passing efficiency here. Clemson are very poor with pass efficiency, and the Tar Heels limit the big plays in the passing game. Play here North Carolina +7. UNLV and Air Force college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UNLV improves to 8-2 with their 34-14 home victory to Wyoming. Rebels rushed for 165 yards on 46 attempts. They allowed under 4 yards per rush to the Cowboys with 176 passing yards on 28 attempts. Jaden Maivia completed 17 of 24 passes for 232 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 9.7 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 2 touchdowns. Air Force fell to 8-2. A 27-13 road defeat to Hawai'i. Falcons rushed for 201 yards on 47 carries. They allowed 121 yards rushing to the Warriors with 176 passing yards on 29 attempts. Zach Blair suffered an injury, left the game in the first quarter, and is questionable here. Jensen Jones hit 3 of 7 passes for 114 yards with an interception. He rushed for 56 yards. Air Force is third in the nation in total defense, allowing 245 yards, 2.3 yards per rush. They've been efficient in pass defense by limiting big plays. UNLV, a high-volume rushing team, as is the Air Force. Rebels hold teams to 3.7 yards a carry. So we have 2 high-volume running teams whose defenses stop the run. Play here UNLV and Air Force under 47. UCLA and USC college football pick. This one here on Saturday. UCLA drops to 6-4, a 17-7 home defeat to Arizona State. Bruins rushed for 183 yards on 37 carries. They held the Sun Devils to 2.5 yards per rush with 176 passing yards on 39 attempts. Ethan Garber is expected to start. Garbers is completing 68% of his passes with 8.4 yards per pass attempt. He has thrown 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. USC fell to 7-4, a 36-27 road defeat in Oregon. Trojans rushed for 73 yards on 25 carries. They allowed 140 yards rushing to the Ducks with 412 passing yards on 32 attempts. Caleb Williams, 19 of 34 passing for 291 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.6 yards per pass attempt. UCLA 10th in total defense by allowing 289 yards a game and only 2.3 yards per rush. Bruins do an outstanding job in pass defense. The Bruins, a good rushing team. They struggle with quarterback accuracy, and that's the issue there. UCLA in conference averaging 20 points and allowed 19 points and 295 yards a game. Play here UCLA and USC under 65.5. Baylor and TCU college football pick. This one here Saturday. Baylor fell to 2-7 with their 59-25 road defeat to Kansas State. Bears rushed for 85 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 183 rushing yards to the Wildcats with 268 passing yards on 34 attempts. Baylor had a -4 turnover margin. Blake Shapen, 22 of 45 passing for 253 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception. TCU drops to 4-6, a 29-26 home defeat to Texas. Horned Frogs rushed for 88 yards on 28 carries. They allowed 165 yards rushing to the Longhorns with 317 passing yards on 33 attempts. Chandler Morris is questionable with a knee injury. Josh Hoover, 24 of 36 passing for 302 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. At home, TCU's putting up 35 points and 474 yards a game and holds opponents at 22 points a game. Baylor on the road this season giving up 41 points, 456 yards a game, and the Bears generate only 3.3 yards per rush, and they struggle with quarterback accuracy. TCU holds opponents at 3.9 yards per rush and just over a 58% completion rate. Play here TCU minus the 13. Illinois and Iowa college football pick. This one here Saturday. Illinois improved to 5-5, a 48-45 home victory to Indiana in overtime. Final Illini rushed for 155 yards on 35 carries. They allowed under 4 yards per rush to the Hoosiers with 289 passing yards on 33 attempts. Luke Altmaier missed the game due to an undisclosed injury. He's been cleared to play on Saturday. Altmaier is completing 65% of his passes with 7 yards per pass attempt. He's thrown for 13 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Iowa 8-2 after their 22-0 home victory at Rutgers. Hawkeyes rushed for 179 yards on 46 attempts. They held the Scarlet Knights to 1.5 yards per rush with 93 passing yards on 18 attempts. Deacon Hill 20 of 31 passing for 223 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Iowa is 8th nationally on defense, allowing 280 yards a game. Final line, I ran for only 3.9 yards a carry. Iowa holds teams to 3.1 yards per rush and outstanding defending the pass. Illinois is giving up 4.2 yards per run on the road and 66.7% completion rate. Hawkeyes at home putting up 24 points a game. Play here, Iowa -3. Georgia and Tennessee college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Georgia 10-0 with their 52-17 home victory at Ole Miss. Bulldogs are rushed for 300 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 175 yards rushing to the Rebels with 173 passing yards on 24 attempts. Carson Beck completed 18 of 25 passes for 306 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 12.2 yards per pass attempt. Tennessee fell to 7-3. A 36-7 road defeat at Missouri. Volunteers rushed for 83 yards on 23 carries. They allowed 255 yards rushing to the Tigers with 275 passing yards on 24 attempts. Tennessee had a -2 turnover margin. Joe Milton, 22 of 34 passing for 267 yards with a touchdown and interception. Volunteers are defending the run well this year, holding opponents at 3.2 yards a carry. They do limit big plays in the passing game. Tennessee 5-0 at home behind strong defense. Play here Tennessee plus 10.5. Minnesota and Ohio State college football pick. This one here Saturday. Minnesota fell to 5-5, a 49-30 road defeat to Purdue. Golden Gophers rushed for 115 yards on 27 carries. They allowed 353 yards rushing to the Boilermakers with 251 passing on 25 attempts. Ethan Kalakmanis, 18 of 42 passing for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 7 yards per pass attempt. Ohio State improved to 10-0. A 38-3 home victory to Michigan State. Buckeyes rushed for 177 yards on 32 carries. They allowed 3.2 yards per rush to the Spartans with 88 passing yards on 25 attempts. Colin McCord, 24 of 31 passing for 335 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 10.8 yards per pass attempt. Ohio State is 4th in total defense, allowing 262 yards a game. They allow opposing quarterbacks only 50% shooting. Minnesota below average running team and very poor with quarterback accuracy and yards per pass attempt. Golden Gophers allow opposing quarterbacks 62% completion rate. Play here Ohio State minus 27.5. Oregon versus Arizona State college football pick. Saturday, Oregon improved to 9-1, a 36-27 home victory to USC. Ducks rushed for 140 yards on 31 carries. They held the Trojans at 2.9 yards per rush with 306 passing yards on 35 attempts. Bo Nix completed 23 of 31 passing for 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. He averaged 13.3 yards per pass attempt. Arizona State is 3-7 after their 17-7 road win at UCLA. Sun Devils rushed for 74 yards on 30 carries. They allowed 183 yards rushing to the Bruins with 117 passing yards on 21 attempts. Trenton Bourguet hit 19 of 34 passing for 149 yards with an interception. Oregon has the second-ranked offense in college football. They are best in quarterback accuracy and are efficient in the passing game. Arizona State is giving up 4.2 yards per run and 62% completion rate. ASU is 109th in total offense by averaging 3.2 yards per run and lacks accuracy at the quarterback position with inefficient passing game. Past 3 games, the Sun Devils averaging just 280 yards a game. Play here, Oregon minus 24. Oklahoma State and Houston college football pick. This one here Saturday, Oklahoma State fell to 7-3, a 45-3 road defeat at UCF it is. Cowboys rushed for 52 yards on 25 carries. They surrendered 293 yards rushing to the Knights with 299 yards passing on 19 attempts. Oklahoma State had a -3 turnover margin. Ellen Bowman completed in the game 19 of 36 passes for 255 yards with 3 interceptions. He averaged 6.3 yards per pass attempt. Houston drops to 4-6, a 24-14 home defeat to Cincinnati. Cougars rushed for 139 yards on 23 carries. They allowed 206 yards rushing to the Bengals to the Bearcats with 164 passing yards on 23 attempts. Houston had a -2 turnover margin. Donovan Smith, 16 of 28 passing for 102 yards with 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. He averaged 3.6 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 88 yards. Houston has struggled offensively against the Big 12 by averaging 20 points and 336 yards a game. Cougars have had issues with pass efficiency. They have gone under in 4 straight. Oklahoma State is dealing with quarterback accuracy issues and poor passing efficiency. Play here Oklahoma State and Houston under 59. New Mexico State and Auburn college football pick. Here we go for Saturday. New Mexico State improved to 8-3, a 38-29 road win at Western Kentucky. Aggies rushed for 236 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 167 yards rushing to the Hilltoppers with 270 passing yards on 36 attempts. Diego Pavia is listed as day-to-day. Was limited in practice on Tuesday. He went 14-24 for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 5.9 yards per pass attempt. Auburn 6-4, a 48-10 road win at Arkansas. Tigers rushed for 354 yards on 55 carries. They allowed under 4 yards per run to the Razorbacks with 135 yards passing on 20 attempts. Peyton Thorne, 12 of 20 passing for 163 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 8.2 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 88 yards and a touchdown. Aggies have not played a Power 5 team. They will face Liberty in 2 weeks in the Conference USA title game. The Tigers have looked strong in the past 3 games. They are the more physical team. You got to wonder here with Pavia here. You got the Conference USA title game 2 weeks from now. Got to worry about his health here. Maybe you point him to that title game. Play here Auburn -24.5. UCF and Texas Tech college football pick Saturday. UCF improved here to 5-5, a 45-3 home victory in this one. Oklahoma State Knights rushed for 293 yards on 51 carries. They held the Cowboys at 2 yards per rush with 225 yards passing on 39 attempts. Central Florida had a +3 turnover margin. John Rice Plumlee, 11 of 18 passing for 299 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 16.6 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 74 yards. Texas Tech sits at 5-5, a 16-13 road win at Kansas. Red Raiders rushed for 136 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 207 yards rushing to the Jayhawks with 137 yards passing on 25 attempts. Beren Morton hit on 19 of 25 passes for 176 yards and an interception. He averaged 7 yards per pass attempt. Texas Tech holds teams to 4 yards per rush and does not give up big plays in the passing game. Both defenses in good form the past 3 games. The Red Raiders have an inefficient passing game. Knights hold opposing quarterbacks at just under 57% completion rate. Play here UCF and Texas Tech under 59.5. Marshall and South Alabama college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Marshall is 5-5 after their 38-33 home victory at Georgia Southern. The Thundering Herd rushed for 169 yards on 33 carries. They held the Panthers to 3.1 yards per rush with 307 yards passing on 56 attempts. Marshall had a -2 turnover margin. Cam Fancher has been benched. Cole Pennington, 15 of 20 passing for 201 yards with an interception. He averaged 10.1 yards per pass attempt. South Alabama 5-5 with their 21-14 home victory at Arkansas State. Jaguars rushed for 199 yards on 40 carries. They allowed 3.5 yards per rush to the Red Wolves with 186 passing yards on 28 attempts. Carter Bradley completed 19 of 25 passes for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 5.8 yards per pass attempt. South Alabama has struggled with pass defense by giving up big plays. They allowed 12.9 yards per completion and 7.7 yards per pass attempt. Thurman Hurd limits the big plays in the passing game. Jaguars past 3 games averaging only 17 points a game. Play here Marshall at plus 11. Old Dominion and Georgia Southern college football pick. This one here Saturday. Old Dominion falls to 4-6, a 38-10 road defeat at Liberty. Monarchs rushed for 119 yards on 41 carries. They surrendered 230 yards rushing to the Flames with 225 yards passing on 24 attempts. Grant Wilson, 23 of 42 passes for 161 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 3.8 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 64 yards. Georgia Southern drops to 6-4, a 38-33 road defeat to Marshall. Eagles rushed for 77 yards on 24 carries. They allowed 169 yards rushing to the Thunder and Herd with 201 passing yards on 21 attempts. Georgia Southern had a +2 turnover margin. Davis Brin, 29 of 54 passing for 307 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 5.7 yards per pass attempt. The Monarchs past 3 games averaging 20 points a game. They struggle with quarterback accuracy. Georgia Southern is a high-volume passing team that's inefficient in the passing game. Monarchs last in sacks allowed with 5.1 sacks allowed per game. Play Old Dominion and Georgia Southern under 62. California and Stanford college football pick Saturday. All right, here we go. California improved to 4-6, a 42-39 home victory to Washington State. Golden Bears rushed for 177 yards on 36 carries. They allowed 125 yards rushing to the Cougars with 358 passing yards on 60 attempts. Cal had a +2 turnover margin. Fernando Mendoza, 14 of 21 passing for 150 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 7.1 yards per pass attempt. Stanford fell to 3-7. A 62-17 road defeat to Oregon State. Cardinal rushed for 82 yards on 32 attempts. They allowed 277 yards rushing to the Beavers with 321 yards passing on 28 attempts. Stanford gave up 6 sacks. Ashton Daniels is questionable with a hand injury. He completed 10 of 16 passes for 200 yards with a touchdown and 3 interceptions. Daniels averaged 12.5 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Justin Lomson in relief hit just 4 of 16 for 42 yards and an interception. He averaged just 2.6 yards per pass attempt. Stanford quarterback situation right now is a major concern. California is dealing with quarterback inaccuracy and passing inefficiency. Stanford 4-1 to the under at home, averaging less than 18 points a game. Player California and Stanford under 55.5. Kansas State versus Kansas college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right. Kansas State improved to 7-3 with their 59-25 home victory to Baylor. Wildcats rushed for 183 yards on 37 attempts. They held the Bears to 2.5 yards per rush with 247 passing yards on 47 attempts. Kansas State had a +4 turnover margin. Will Howard, 19 of 29 passing for 235 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 8.1 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Kansas 7-3 with their 16-13 home defeat to Texas Tech. Jayhawks rushed for 207 yards on 45 carries. They allowed 136 yards rushing to the Red Raiders with 176 yards passing on 25 attempts. Jason Bean has been upgraded to probable, has been taking reps in practice. Bean has completed nearly 60% of his passes, 9.3 yards per pass attempt. He has 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Kansas State is just 1-3 straight up on the road as they allow 451 yards per game. Kansas has been a good home team, winning 5 of 6 by averaging 37 points and 448 yards a game. Jayhawks rush for 5.2 yards a carry. They get accuracy from the quarterback position as well as an efficient passing game. Player Kansas +9.5. Boise State and Utah State college football pick. This one here on Saturday, Boise State improved to 5-5 with their 42-14 home victory in New Mexico. Broncos rushed for 219 yards on 42 carries. They held the Lobos to 4 yards per rush with 200 passing yards on 26 attempts. Madison out with a leg injury. Taylon Green on the year, completing 54% of his passes with 7.4 yards per pass attempt. He rushed for 6 touchdowns and averages 5.4 yards per rush. Utah State improved to 5-5, a 41-24 home victory in Nevada. Aggies rushed for 292 yards on 44 carries. They allowed 183 yards rushing to the Wolfpack with 164 passing yards on 28 attempts. Cooper Legas hit 18 of 33 passes for 182 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He averaged 5.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 45 yards. Boise State is struggling with accuracy at the quarterback position. Utah State limits big plays in the passing game. The Broncos limit teams to 3.9 yards per rush. Past 3 games, Boise State defense holding teams at 19 points and 292 yards a game. Play here, Boise State and Utah State under 64.5. Nebraska and Wisconsin college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Nebraska fell to 5-5 with a 13-10 home defeat to Maryland. Cornhuskers rushed for 183 yards on 40 carries. They allowed nearly 4 yards per rush to the Terrapins with 283 passing yards on 40 attempts. Nebraska committed 5 turnovers, took 3 away from Maryland. Nebraska has rotated 3 quarterbacks without much effectiveness. Jeff Sims last week, 8 of 13 passes for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 4.8 yards per pass attempt. Wisconsin dropped to 5-5, a 24-10 home defeat to Northwestern. Badgers rushed for 86 yards on 24 carries. They allowed 129 yards rushing to the Wildcats with 195 passing yards on 26 attempts. Tanner Mordecai, in his return, hit 31 of 45 passes for 255 yards. He averaged 5.7 yards per pass attempt. Nebraska, 117th in the nation in total offense, with 130th ranked quarterback accuracy and passing inefficiency. Wisconsin defends well. The Badgers share similar issues with the quarterback accuracy and pass inefficiency issues. Nebraska defends well. Cornhuskers are putting up just 15 points a game on the road. Wisconsin, over their past 3 games, averaging just 11 points a game. Play here will be Nebraska and Wisconsin under 37. Kentucky versus South Carolina college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Kentucky fell to 6-4, a 49-21 home defeat to Alabama. Wildcats rushed for 95 yards on 24 carries. They allowed 159 yards rushing to the Crimson Tide with 285 passing yards on 25 attempts. Devin Leary in the game, 17 of 31 passing for 158 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 5.1 yards per pass attempt. South Carolina improved to 4-6, a 47-6 home victory to Vanderbilt. Gamecocks rushed for 136 yards on 24 carries. They held the Commodores to 3 yards per rush with 104 yards passing on 28 attempts. Spencer Rattler, 28 of 36 passing for 351 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged 9.8 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. South Carolina is a poor defensive team, allowing 413 yards a game. They allow 63% completion rate along with big plays in the passing game. Gamecocks rushed for only 2.9 yards a carry, and the Wildcats hold opponents to 3.4 yards per rush. Kentucky does limit big plays in the passing game. South Carolina against the SEC, giving up 29 points and 427 yards a game. Play here will be Kentucky at +2. Florida versus Missouri college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Florida fell to 5-5, a 52-35 road defeat to LSU. Gators rushed for 177 yards on 42 carries. They surrendered 329 yards rushing to the Tigers with 372 yards passing on 26 attempts. Graham Mertz, 26 of 38 passing for 311 yards with a touchdown. He averaged 8.2 yards per pass attempt and a rushing touchdown. Missouri improved to 8-2, a 36-7 home victory to Tennessee. Tigers rushed for 255 yards on 51 carries. They limited the Volunteers to 3.5 yards per rush with 267 yards passing on 34 attempts. Missouri had a +2 turnover margin. Brady Cook, 18 of 24 passes for 275 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 11.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 55 yards and a touchdown. Missouri defense in outstanding form as over their past 5 games, allowing 16 points a game. Florida on the road is rushing for only 2.6 yards a carry and averaging 24 points a game. Play here Florida and Missouri under 57.5. Florida International and Arkansas college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, FAU fell to 4-6 with their 40-6 road defeat to Middle Tennessee State. Golden Panthers rushed for 47 yards on 36 attempts. They allowed 4 yards per rush to the Blue Raiders with 288 yards passing on 27 attempts. Keon Jenkins, 22 of 35 passes for 226 yards, 6.5 yards per pass attempt. Arkansas dropped to 3-7, a 48-10 home defeat to Auburn. Razorbacks rushed for 120 yards on 32 carries. They allowed 354 yards passing to the Tigers with 163 passing yards on 21 attempts. KJ Jefferson, 10 of 16 passing for 116 yards. He averaged 7.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 50 yards. FIU has faced no team for the Power 5 conference. They've lost consecutive games to Jacksonville State and Middle Tennessee State, getting outscored by a combined 81-22. Golden Panthers 119th in total defense, allowing 432 yards a game, 4.8 yards per rush, and allowing big plays in the passing game. Play here Arkansas minus the 29. Washington and Oregon State college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, Washington improved to 10-0, a 35-28 home victory to Utah. Huskies rushed for 125 yards on 33 carries. They allowed 4.2 yards per rush to the Utes with 267 passing yards on 30 attempts. Michael Penix, 24 of 42 passing for 332 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 7.9 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Oregon State improved to 8-2. A 62-17 home victory to Stanford. Beavers rushed for 277 yards on 40 attempts. They held the Cardinals to under 3 yards per rush with 242 yards passing on 32 attempts. Oregon State had a +3 turnover margin. DJ Uiagalelei hit 12 of 19 passes for 240 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 12.6 yards per pass attempt. Oregon State's strong rushing team averaging 5.4 yards a carry. The Huskies giving up 4.4 yards per rush. The Beavers should run here at high volume and to run the clock and keep Washington's offense off the field. Oregon State 30th in total defense, holding teams to 3.3 yards per run and limiting those big plays in the passing game. Player will be Washington and Oregon State under 62.5. Georgia State and LSU college football pick. This one here on Saturday. All right, here we go. We got Georgia State falling here to 6-4, a 42-14 home defeat to Appalachian State. Panthers rushed for 139 yards on 47 carries. They allowed 254 rushing yards to Mountaineers with 255 passing yards on 21 attempts. Darren Granger, 15 of 28 passes for 115 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He averaged a season low 4.1 yards per pass attempt. LSU improved to 7-3, a 52-35 home victory to Florida. Tigers rushed for 329 yards on 35 carries. They allowed 177 yards rushing to the Gators with 311 passing yards on 38 attempts. Jane Daniels, 17 of 26 passing for 372 yards with 3 touchdowns. He averaged 14.3 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 234 yards, 2 touchdowns. Georgia State is running for 4.6 yards a carry. The LSU defense, 108th in the nation by allowing 415 yards a game and 4.8 yards per rush. The Panthers rushed at high volume. Play to Georgia State plus 31.5. Syracuse versus Georgia Tech college football pick. This one here on Saturday. Syracuse improved to 5-5, a 28-13 home victory to Pitt. Orange rushed for 382 yards on 66 carries. They held the Panthers to 3 yards per rush with 209 yards passing on 28 attempts. Syracuse had a +3 turnover margin. Garrett Schrader, 1 of 2 passing for 5 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 2.5 yards per pass attempt and rushed for 96 yards and a touchdown. Georgia Tech fell to 5-5, a 42-21 road defeat to Clemson. Yellow Jackets rushed for 117 yards on 33 carries. They surrendered 260 yards rushing to the Tigers with 205 passing yards on 37 attempts. Georgia Tech had a -4 turnover margin. Haynes King, 13 of 31 passing for 129 yards with 2 touchdowns and 4 picks. He averaged a season low 4.2 yards per pass attempt and had a rushing touchdown. Syracuse went run heavy in their win against the Panthers. Georgia Tech is allowing 5.3 yards per rush. The Yellow Jackets sit 130th in the nation in total defense. Player will be Syracuse plus 6.5. Texas versus Iowa State college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Texas improved to 9-1, a 29-26 road defeat to TCU. Longhorns rushed for 165 yards on 41 carries. They allowed 88 yards rushing to the Horned Frogs with 302 passing yards on 36 attempts. Quinn Ewers, 22 of 33 passing for 317 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 9.6 yards per pass attempt. Iowa State is 6-4 after their 45-13 road win at BYU. Cyclones rushed for 234 yards on 37 attempts. They allowed 4.5 yards per rush to the Cougars with 130 passing yards on 28 attempts. Iowa State had a +3 turnover margin. Rocco Becht, 15 of 23 passing for 203 yards with 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt. Longhorns get an accurate quarterback play and efficient in the passing game. Their defense holding post at 3 yards per rush. Both sides of the football better right now with the Longhorns. Player Texas -7.5. New Mexico and Fresno State college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. All right, New Mexico fell to 3-7, a 42-14 road defeat to Boise State. Lobos rushed for 123 yards on 31 carries. They allowed 219 yards rushing to the Broncos with 265 yards passing on 19 attempts. Dylan Hopkins returns after missing last week with an illness. Hopkins completing 59% of his passes with 7.9 yards per pass attempt. Fresno State drops here to 8-2, a 42-18 road defeat to San Jose State. Bulldogs rushed for 83 yards on 31 carries. They allowed 313 yards rushing to the Spartans with 146 passing yards on 18 attempts. Mikey Keene is questionable with a concussion. Backup Logan Fife, 11 of 21 passing for 115 yards with a touchdown and interception. He averaged 5.5 yards per pass attempt. Fresno State quarterback situation a concern. Lobos have issues with quarterback accuracy. The Bulldogs really good in pass defense, holding opposing quarterbacks a 56% completion rate. Past 3 games, New Mexico averaging only 17 points a game. They struggle with quarterback accuracy. Play here New Mexico and Fresno State under 59. San Diego State and San Jose State college football pick Saturday. San Diego State fell to 3-7, a 22-19 road defeat at Colorado State. Aztecs rushed for 145 yards on 32 carries. They allowed 183 yards rushing to the Rams with 244 passing yards on 31 attempts. Jalen Maiden hit 19 of 25 passes for 128 yards. He averaged 5.1 yards per pass attempt with a rushing touchdown. San Jose State improved to 5-5, a 42-18 home victory to Fresno State. Spartans rushed for 313 yards on 43 attempts. They limited the Bulldogs to 2.7 yards a carry with 225 passing yards on 41 attempts. Chevin Cordero, 9 of 18 passes for 146 yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 8.1 yards per pass attempt. Spartans are rushing for 5.4 yards a carry, with San Jose State giving up 4.7 yards per rush. San Jose State is an efficient passing team. The Aztecs are putting up 21 points a game in conference. The past 3 games, Spartans are putting up 40 points, 435 yards a game. Their defense is giving up 4.6 yards per rush. Play here will be on San Diego State and San Jose State to go over 48.5. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Saturday's action, all 57 games. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have free college football picks updated all season long, free picks every day from all the major sports, making it a great time to subscribe. And also, if you would, support our channel with a like, a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Remember, visit our site, TonySpeaks.com, for our best plays. Our premium picks are there. Use the promo code TonyT at checkout. You'll save that 20% off. And of course, remember, TonySpeaks.com is brought to you by the Rhythm app. Create your custom sports betting models now with the Rhythm app and save a lot of time in your handicapping, because with Rhythm, it's still your logic and you create your custom models, but Rhythm handles all that grunt work that used to take a lot of time. All right, that's do it for now. Lots of free picks on our channel. I'm Tony T. We'll talk to you guys later.